Hello and welcome to Relax Teams. This is our monthly lunch and learn, and our theme here for September. September, remember, we want to always remember 9/11. We have a very special nonprofit that we're supporting and endorsing and want everyone to know about. It's the Red Bandana. Everyone may be familiar with it from the various Netflix, from ESPN. It's the Wells Rami Crowther Charitable Trust is the foundation and organization. They do great work to help to raise better people. And it's all about an individual who was trapped in the towers. His mother will explain in detail the situation that he was stuck in. And he kept going back into the building, actually gotten out safely multiple times, kept going out to get others, and unfortunately perished that day. So we want to make sure that everyone remembers, like October is pink. We have different things for different months. We want to make sure the bandana, the red bandana, becomes a big piece of September. And that's a goal of ours, is to make sure that people don't forget and that remember. So with that theme, we have a couple of different panels today. We have some great panelists speaking about insights on security and safety, and a second panelist speaking about aging, retirement, memory, and for as you age. So without any further ado, we'll start off the first panel with insights on security and safety. We have a couple of different approaches to this. We'll start out with Jeannie Assante. Jeannie, you want to introduce yourself, who you are and what you do?
Absolutely. My name is, thank you so much, Dennis. Totally appreciate the opportunity. My name is Jeannie Assante. I do come from the Staten Island market, and I'm excited because I get to protect people's identity. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I know that sometimes we forget that there are people out there trying to do what they're trying to do with our identity. I want to make sure that you can forget, but not be vulnerable. So we can learn about that today. Thank you, Dennis.
Excellent. And the other person we have on our panel speaking about security, we have a different angle with Jonathan. Jonathan, you want to introduce yourself, who you are and what you do?
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. I work with companies to transform their business and transform their business from on-premise sites or offline sites or manual workflows, transition them to the browser with a security-first model, and really work with them to transform and automate their existing business, all again with security and safety being our top priority.
Excellent. So we're talking about safety from two different angles here today, more on the personal individual safety and then on your business's safety. But a lot of it has to do with protecting in a virtual world, which, as we know, post-COVID, everyone is seeming to be living in. So Jeannie, do you want to get started talking a little bit more details about what it is that people need to be most concerned about when it comes to being online in a virtual world with their security?
Absolutely. And again, thank you so much. I tell you, it's really interesting how people, and I'm just going to start with this. Sometimes we don't think that we need something until something happens. And then all of a sudden we say, oh my gosh, I should have had that. How many times has somebody told someone or spoke about how they lost their wallet? And how many times did people talk about how they cannot get their wallet back without getting their ID? And how many times did you talk to someone and they had money missing out of their account? And then you got to figure out, you got to go to the bank. You got to figure out who took the money or how to get the money back, or if you're going to get the money back. Now, I know the banks are really good with giving you your money back right nowadays, so it's not so bad, right? But here's what's really bad about it is now they have your information and they can just do it again and again. Because they got to your account one time, they're going to get to your account again, right? So the second thing that you may want to think about is your identity, your actual identity, your name, who you are, the person that you are putting forward in your everyday world. I just ponder this really quickly. If someone should take your identity and do some unmentionable things to it or with it, and it gets out, and people start talking about what you may or may not have done, they're going to take their focus away from whatever business that you're in whatever business that you're doing, whatever business that you own, and the focus is going to be on something that you may or may not have done. What would that cost you? Business-wise, what would that cost you? Would it be more than 75 cents a day? Because if it's more than 75 cents a day, that's what it's going to cost to make sure that your identity is protected. Now, identity theft protection, I just want to say, is not something that says you're never going to have your identity stolen. It's kind of like having medical insurance, right? That doesn't mean you're never going to get sick, but it means that you're covered in case you do get sick. It means that you are being taken care of on the back end. And just a couple of examples that I'm just going to give. The most important one that just recently happened to me is I went to a car dealership to buy a car. You know how they do that soft check, right? So that, I told them, don't do the soft check. I'm a viable client. I promise you, because if not, and I'm not a viable client, you're just not going to sell me a car. But I really don't want you to, ding my credit by any stretch of the imagination. Well, with that being said, I'm sitting at the dealership and they're talking about, numbers, and they came out to me with some numbers and they said to me, these are the numbers that we want to give you, and this is what you want to pay for the car. And, they always come out with numbers that you just like, you know what? Yeah, no, I'm not paying that number, right? So they got to go back and do it again. So he goes into the back to the manager, that manager thing that they're doing, right? And they're going to come out with a different number. And as they were doing that, I get an alert on my phone from my identity theft protector, which is IDSeal. Seal your ID so no one can ever steal it. And they said to me, on my alert, it says that my credit was just checked by that particular institution. And so when the guy came out, I said to him, I thought I asked you to please not do, a check on me until for sure we were going to do business. I just don't like my credit played with. He said to me, no, I didn't. I promptly took out my phone and said to him, yes, you did. So here's what really got me excited about identity theft protection is that I am not just protected, I'm alerted on every little thing that goes on in my credit. Anybody ever get those 0% credit cards in the mail? As soon as I got one, I was alerted that I was being checked on. Before that, we didn't know. We got the card in the mail, whatever happened, if we got the card, if somebody else got the card, whatever, we had no idea. But wouldn't you like to know what's going on in your life and what's going on in your name? Or better yet, wouldn't you like to know if someone's trying to steal your children's ID? How many people on this line have children or know of any children that they have that they hold near and dear to their hearts and their family? Nieces, nephews, grandchildren. Do you know that they're the most susceptible for identity theft protection? Because the last thing you're looking for in the mailbox is whether your son, your daughter, your niece, your nephew, your grandchild is getting a piece of mail because we're not expecting it. And so when something happens and they take their identity and they start using it for whatever they want to use it for, and they're building a life under that name. And when you decide now that you want to start building a life for that child, or the parent wants to build a life for that child, and they can't because somebody else decided they were going to use it and misuse it.
No, that's some nice input there, and we'll come back to you. We want to go back to Jonathan now and find out a little bit more similarities and different things that you're able to do and what you see for businesses as far as security.
Well, right off the bat, the alerts is a big thing for cybersecurity as well. You want to make sure that you're being notified of any threat detections. You want to make sure you're being notified of malicious malware or attacks. I don't know if anyone remembers when the DDoS things were popular 4 or 5 years ago, where they would basically overwhelm a website with traffic so the website shuts down. So alerting a business that, there's a new scam out there or a new type of malicious activity that people were engaging in to try to hurt your business. So I totally agree with Jeannie on the alerts and how important that is for business, essentially so you can act accordingly. But I will say, internet's okay? Can you hear me?
Yeah, you froze up there for a second, Jonathan. Can we hear you now? You froze for a second.
Hey, can you still hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Not sure if I cut out there. So the alerts are a big piece is what I was saying, but part of what the main benefits of moving to the cloud are is to really essentially reduce the need for those alerts.
We're still
We're
here.
still coming through okay?
Yeah, you're coming through fine.
Okay, all right. Because I can't tell because all right, everyone's on mute, so usually you get a little bit of feedback. But basically, we're going to reduce even getting to those alerts. So a lot of businesses operate where they have all of their materials not on the cloud, they have it on premises, they have it manually written down, and that causes a lot of concerns for business. Some of those concerns are regulatory. So perhaps you're in a business where you work with people's personal information, or you work with data that needs to be encrypted. If you're not following best practices on data management, or if you're exposing people's information, or you're not protecting people's information, that could come back to hurt you from legal aspects of your business. You can be unprotected from a regulatory standpoint. The other big thing that people often overlook is the scalability of their data compliance and of their data security. So as your business grows, you get more data, you have more systems, you have more integrations, you have more workflows. All of those new pieces expose you to more risk. It's like if you're building a bigger house, you now have to have more insurance to cover that house. So as your business grows, people often neglect growing their security along with their business. And part of the benefits of moving to the cloud is a lot of that scalability is built in place from day one. So you don't have to remember to upgrade certain servers or certain systems or have certain backup practices in place. That's all taken into consideration with you. The backup is another big piece. As much prevention as you do, there can always be a problem that hits your plate. So not only do you want to be making sure that you're planning for detection and things like that ahead of the time, but you still need to have a backup plan if something does go wrong. So what happens if your site is completely taken over by malicious malware? Do you have a data backup? Do you have any redundancy in place so that your business does not shut down, or you're not scrambling for a couple of weeks to try to get back to where you used to? We've seen people that have accidentally deleted their servers or have deleted their databases. If you don't have a redundancy plan in place, you are out of luck. You lose all of those leads, all of those banking records, whatever it is, that's out the door. So a lot of similarities between a business and technical security as well as security. Somewhere where you leave your computer system, the door's unlocked at your office. So definitely a ton of similarities that we can keep diving into. I will say go ahead.
No, go ahead.
The last thing I'll leave you with is when you do migrate to the cloud, when you do put it on the browser, especially if you're working with reputable teams and consultants and things like that, you do get 24/7 support. So, unfortunately for most of the working population, people that are engaging in malicious activity don't necessarily work 9 to 5. So just because you're not in the office 9 to 5 protecting your systems, that doesn't mean someone's not out there in the world trying to take your data or trying to steal from you. So you need to make sure that you're protected 24/7. There's different time zones in this world. People work all over the world. So you need to make sure that you have backup and people in place and ready to assist you and help if something does, in fact, go wrong. So planning ahead, planning in the middle, and then planning for the future. You need to make sure that you have all your bases covered.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And I would say as an accountant, I know on both sides, I get this question, I get this thing all the time. We tend to be a very virtual firm on purpose because of these exact reasons. People get so worried about, well, my information is going to be here. It's a lot scarier. And think about it. I mean, if it's sitting in some accountant's office, what if the accountant's office just got one underwater? Like there's other things and it's all got washed away. It's floating out there. All those papers are floating around. If you have all this information on a paper and there's no control over where it is, and on your personal information that's on the web, whether you want to or not, you go out and check some of these things. It's already there. I mean, most of your information is there. So you want to have it protected. I mean, to think it's not there is a fantasy on an individual side. And, you know, paper information is only as good when it's sitting in files and you don't know who's accessed it. Access control is critical, as both of you have brought up. And as an accountant, I can't encourage people enough to make sure they know that access control around their information, because that is critical. So I'll give you both a chance to come in with one last question. We'll start with Jonathan. What is the one thing in 2 minutes or less that you'd want people to take away from this conversation here today?
First and foremost, take stock of what you have. Look at your business and ask yourself these questions. Do I have something in place that will alert me if there's somebody trying to attack my software or attack my customer base? If not, start with getting alerts in place. Start understanding what you need to set yourself up so that you're getting notified. Then continuing the pipeline, think about what your backup plans are. Okay, what happens if they get past my alerts, they come into my system and they take all of my data? What am I going to do? So make sure you have a redundancy or a backup plan in place. And then the last step is make sure that your business has a way to communicate and to engage your customers in the best way. You take an example from some of these larger companies like Target that had a massive data breach. You have to handle the situation after something disastrous happens. So make sure that you have the communication in place. You can notify people. The worst thing that you can do is after a problem takes place is to not notify your customers. So look at it from those three aspects. What do I do to prevent? What do I do if something happens? And then what do I do after something happens to make sure that, my business can rise like a phoenix and come back strong?
Excellent. And is that things that you do with Business on a Browser to make sure people have that?
Oh, absolutely. This is our bread and butter. So again, just like manufacturing companies that say safety first, security is first with us. So there's never a solution we will build without security. And one of the things that we do, along with most other consulting companies that are in this space, security is built in day one. So 10 years ago, you would build security at the end. You would build your solution and then you would secure it. Security is from day one. We are building security into every workflow, into every process, into every integration, into every system. So right from day one, you are a fully secured system with backup plans and mitigation tactics in place. And we talk through all of that together.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Jeannie, same question to you. In 2 minutes or less, what was the one thing you want people to remember from our conversation here today?
Oh, well, first of all, Jonathan, great presentation. Amazing. And I learned a few things myself. So thank you so much. Appreciate that. So I want to say that, the one thing that I want people to remember is I want them to remember that, like Dennis just said before, your information is out there. Somebody somewhere along the line has your information. And what do you want to do with that? You want to make sure it's protected so that whoever it is might get their hands on it, won't be able to do anything about it. How would you like to know that if your information does go like floating down the street because it's on a piece of paper, that someone is watching it to make sure that somebody else doesn't reuse it? And really, that's pretty much, or misuse it. And that's pretty much really, what you want to make sure you have. Just like when you have medical insurance, just like when you have car insurance, you don't get these things because you're going to have a medical issue or you're going to have a car accident. You get them just in case so that you're protected. Do the IDSeal just in case so that you're protected.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you. So I'm going to open it up. Does anyone have any specific questions for either of our panelists? No? All right. Very good.